As you know, Mrs. Doubtfire from the movie the same name. Mrs. Doubtfire and Dread Pirate Roberts are Wesley from The Princess Bride. Both good movies. I like The Princess Bride better if I had to put them against each other because this has got everything. Action, drama, comedy, suspense. It's really good. So Mrs. Doubtfire versus the Dread Pirate Roberts. It's inconceivable.
Round 1.
The premise behind Mrs. Doubtfire is this. Daniel Hillard gets divorced from his wife and he's unable to see his 3 kids because he loses custody. So he takes the role, unknowingly to everybody else, as Mrs. Doubtfire, the nanny, to take care of his own kids, just to be at home and be with them. He gets off work early because he quits and throws a party for his son. He wants to, but the sister says, hey, he got a bad report card. And what does he say?
Mom's not gonna be home for another 4 hours, is she?
What? So then he commences to throw this party with all these crazy animals, from chickens to donkeys. They're playing outside in the San Francisco streets. They're inside the house, roaming around. That's already strike against him in round 1. I mean, you don't do that. He had bad grades. The mom said no, and you still want to do it and then get rid of everybody before she shows up. Come on, man. The premise behind The Princess Bride is this. Wesley, the Dread Pirate Roberts, is in love with Buttercup. He sells off. He's gone for 5 years. She has to move on. She ends up getting engaged to the new prince. Then she gets kidnapped. And then who shows up out of nowhere? Wesley, or AKA the Dread Pirate Roberts. You just coincidentally show up after she gets kidnapped. Not while she's already hanging out with the prince and getting engaged. I'm not sure what he's doing besides, pillaging and pirating and whatever Dread Pirate Roberts does. So my theory is this. You just been hanging out the coast, using her contacts to figure out what she's doing, keeping tabs on her, and then when she gets kidnapped, you show up, coincidentally. I don't think so.
Round 2.
So my second hit against Mrs. Doubtfire is this. He's unmotivated, severely unmotivated. At the party, the wife comes home and discovers he had it. She asks for divorce. And then the movie cuts to the court proceedings. The judge says, once you have a job, once you have a place to live, and you're stabilized, then we can revisit the custody issue. But for now, the wife will get the custody, full custody, until then. But you know how the court system works. It doesn't happen very quickly. It wasn't like the next day they had a court proceeding for divorce court. It's weeks and weeks later. So all this time, you didn't get a job, you didn't get a place to live, with maybe plenty of bedrooms for the children in a nice neighborhood. So that way you had something to use when you went to court and say, hey, looks like I deserve half and half custody, or whatever the case may be, instead of having sole custody to your wife. You didn't do anything extra to try to win them over. Nothing. You just sat there and said, feel sorry for me, I don't have a job. Woe is me. Another example of how he's unmotivated is after he becomes Mrs. Doubtfire, the nanny, he learns how to cook and clean and do all these other extra, domestic duties. But he didn't do any of that while he was the husband. Even though he knew she picked the career ahead of being home all the time. She was the breadwinner.
You chose the career, Miss.
I have no choices here, Daniel. I have no choices.
But you didn't do any of those things. You didn't do anything extra to help your kids out, help the household out, and help your wife out. But now, after you're Mrs. Doubtfire, you want to know how to cook and clean. No, I'm not buying it. So my second hit against Wesley is this. After he rescues Buttercup from the kidnappers, he still doesn't confess who he is. He has his mask on. Of course, she doesn't see him and doesn't realize who it is. He commits to not only not tell her who he is, but he verbally berates her for not waiting 5 years. I mean, how long do you expect her to wait, man? Then he threatens to slap her.
The next time my hand flies on its own, for where I come from, there are penalties when a woman lies.
And has these condescending tones and arguments with her about her own beauty and just talks down to her. All because he's jealous or upset because she was about to marry the prince. So I'm like, it's been 5 years. It wasn't like he was just laying in bed in a coma. She knew exactly where he was at. It was rumored he was kidnapped by the Dread Pirate Roberts. And he doesn't take any survivors, so she just feared the worst and moved on with her life. And 5 years later, she finally got engaged and moved on. But no, he's so jealous of it that he needs to talk down to her, wants to physically assault her. Like, what's the matter with you?
Round 3.
Now this is round 3, and Mrs. Doubtfire just becomes a butthole. He's already become Mrs. Doubtfire. He's the nanny. He's been around for a while. And the wife's already seen somebody else. He has a new boyfriend and everything. He becomes super jealous. He sees the new boyfriend's car, Mercedes-Benz, and breaks the emblem off of it. I'm like, what? Why, man? What's that going to accomplish? Right? And then he bullies the boyfriend kind of way with these weird sexual remarks at the dinner party and try to make him feel awkward or uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't get why you're doing that. And then he sees the boyfriend walking away at some resort by the pool and hits him in the head with a lime. And then acts like he didn't do it. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know where that came from. I think it was that guy over there. I mean, he just chucks a lime at the guy's head. And then, lastly, and worst of all, he finds out the boyfriend has a pepper allergy. So he sneaks into the kitchen and puts pepper on the boyfriend's dish. And of course, what happens? He has an allergic reaction. He doesn't care if it's going to be a deathly one or not. He does that out of spite because he's dating his ex-wife now. I was like, you nearly killed a man because of this allergy that he had. So you damage the guy's car. You berate him at the dinner table. You throw a piece of fruit at him. And then you nearly kill the guy because he had an allergic reaction that you caused. Yet all the time in the world to be a better husband, and you didn't do it. And now you're taking out on the guy that actually played James Bond. Give him a break, man. Round 3 with Wesley is he is not a good guy. Now hear me out. He's a Dread Pirate Roberts who took it over from a different Pirate Roberts who took it over from somebody else. And the thing is, everybody understands that with Dread Pirate Roberts, he doesn't take any prisoners. But it doesn't necessarily mean that he unalives everybody, right? He just doesn't happen to take prisoners. Maybe he goes, hey, you want to come on board and become my crew? Or maybe he leaves them on an island by themselves. But it doesn't necessarily mean he kills them, right? But still, you need to establish that reputation before people can just have hearsay. So I think, in my opinion, Wesley had to kill a few people so they'd understand his new crew. Like, yeah, this guy doesn't play around. Also, you see how fearful the guards are whenever Andre the Giant or Fezzik shows up and says, oh, I take no survivors. And he's on fire. Those guards are freaking out because they know Dread Pirate Roberts is crazy like that. That reputation precedes him. So you understand he had to kill somebody throughout his career. Lastly, he runs around immune to iocane powder, a poisonous powder. So to me, you take it numerous times, but when do you use that poison? You just carry it around. Why are you carrying around poison? Who does that? Only the Dread Pirate Roberts who actually kills people. So he's not a good guy. Oh, Wesley is a hero. He rescues her. No. He doesn't take prisoners or survivors or wherever you want to label it. He takes lives. And that's all there is to it. Well, that was 1v1 Mrs. Doubtfire versus the Dread Pirate Roberts. Let me know in the comments who you think won. Also, let me know any other unsuspecting villains you can think of. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one. It's inconceivable.